Welcome to the lesson for today. And I've been playing on a theme of how we lengthen our spine. This is a continuation of lessons from the San Francisco series that both Gaby Yaron and Mia Siegel taught. This one is from Gaby. So settle into the floor and we'll begin. Come to the floor and lie on your back. Have your legs long, comfortably spread, hips shoulder width apart. And then have your arms long beside you, palms face down. And begin your scan, listening to the contact you make with the floor. Begin to discern if you can sense a difference in the length of your right leg compared to your left leg, or your right arm compared to the left arm, or the length of your spine. Maybe if you begin from the very bottom, the tailbone, your sacral bone, your lower back, these are the lumbar vertebra, the area that becomes your thoracic or rib spine. You might be more aware of the ribs to the side. Pay attention to all the places you sense you make contact. Continue traveling up, notice your shoulder blades. There are areas of your spine that will pull away from the floor. So you might notice that as you're coming closer to your neck, your cervical spine, you don't feel contact there. But can you imagine the sense of your spine? Your head will sit on top. So feel this line, whether it is a sense of connecting to the floor or elevated away from the floor. Are there areas that feel long or shorter, portions one compared to the other? Take in the whole of you and also pay attention to your breath. Notice when I drew your attention to your breath, did you do something? Did you increase the inhalation or hold your breath for a moment? So just notice when we do things. It's never wrong. And then can you move away from the doing just to witness what's actually happening when you're not attempting to do anything to correct or affect? Listen to your contact. The idea is you want to be comfortable. So even though it's suggested you have your limbs long, notice for you if you feel you need to bend your knees and bring your feet to stand. Most important is you're honoring you. And if possible, that you can start with your legs long for the scan, arms long, palms face down, please do that. If that is disquieting, then how would you modify the directions? Simply knowing that you're doing it to attend to yourself is what's most important versus following a specific I have to direction. Listen to the whole of you and create some kind of memory of what it feels like in the beginning, so that as you continue to lie out on the floor to rest, you can make a comparison. What's changing? Where do you sense the change? And sometimes the change takes time. So don't demand looking for it. Just notice. Notice what you notice as it appears. Now very slowly, bring both feet to stand. And notice often I mention going slowly. That's so that you can really pay attention to how you're doing the directions. So frequently we activate quick, fast, which means it's not wrong, but we're already doing our habit. So we slow it down. So for yourself, continue to think, can I do this slowly, gently, so that as I'm doing the movements, I can pay attention to other things too. Have your legs spread standing comfortably wide. Again, each one of us needs to find what that space is. You're going to keep right now the left foot, the left knee in the vertical standing. We're going to activate and actually initiate the movement right now with your right leg. Your arms will rest long beside you, palms face down. There's a reason for why we're doing that, so that you can listen to the trail of movement and how it travels through you. Begin to take your right knee, and you're going to tilt your right knee outward to the right, going as far as it is for you comfortably. Notice how you'll transition on your right foot. Do you notice you can roll more towards the outside edge of your right foot? Maybe the inside edge starts to lift away. And then return the right foot back to standing. The knee returns to the vertical. You make this movement slowly several times so that you're listening to the quality of the movement as you tilt your right knee out to the right, wherever it's comfortable and as far as you want to go, with the idea that your left knee wants to stay towards the ceiling. Continue to play with that. And begin to notice as you're tilting your right knee out to the side, what do you notice in your hip joints? Not only the right one, but also your left. Maybe as you're tilting the right knee out to the right, going comfortably as far as you can, enjoyably, so that you don't hang there, you return it to stand. Listen to that process. It's almost like a swinging door, slow, swinging open, and then coming back to stand. Do you notice that in order to go further comfortably, maybe at some point you notice something happens in your left foot? All the while, the left knee is staying towards the ceiling. Is there a sense that the left knee starts to move? Does it move closer to you? Does it move further away from you? As it aids and helps your right knee to go out to the right. And then it restores to standing. You listen to your breathing as you do this. And listen to a trail of movement. Where do you feel movement travel further than just your hip joint? And the right hip joint, the left hip joint. What's happening in the pelvis? Your spine. Now, if the base of your spine, your tailbone, your sacral bone, and the lowest two lumbar vertebrae, L5 and L4, are housed within the pelvic bowl, and you're tilting your right knee out to the right such that your right foot starts to roll a little out to the outside edge, what do you start to notice happens in your pelvis? And therefore, in the contact you make with the floor, in your lower back, in ribs, in your shoulder blades? Do you feel a response happen in your head? Or in your left shoulder blade compared to your right shoulder blade? Are there subtle differences starting to awaken? You just continue to play with this idea and then lengthen your legs and come back to rest. Notice your contact. That this little exploration of tilting your right knee out to the right, bringing it back to stand, and reiterating that movement many times, but as individual explorations, has it affected the sense of how you're lying with your limbs long? Sometimes an individual might notice right away, and other times it's not so clear. So just be in that place of not knowing what it should be, just subtly listening. And then return your feet back to standing with a certain comfortable width. And this time, now take your right knee and tilt it inward. So as you tilt your right knee inward, listen to the trajectory of your right knee. Does it just go in? Can it also begin to arc downward a little bit? And when it does that, notice what happens in the contact of your right foot. Maybe now you notice you go more towards the inside edge of your right foot and the outside edge starts to peel away from the floor a little bit. Continue this movement and feel how it's different. All the while the left foot, the left knee is staying in the vertical. Where is this so different than what you did previously? Pay attention to your hip joints, the movement in your pelvis. Where could you listen and notice what's happening? Not just in the right knee that's tilting in, the right foot, but in your pelvis, your hip joints. Can you let your belly be soft, free, the lower belly especially? Listen to how you breathe. What is the timing as you tilt the right knee inward? It's going inward towards the center, towards the left, and then it restores to stand. What's changing in your contact with the floor? And then as you bring the right knee back into the vertical, you pause for a moment with your feet standing and begin to alternate now the right knee. It goes out to the right, restores to stand, and then it goes inward towards the midline and towards the left. Maybe it goes in a little bit and then downward a little bit. And feel what it does throughout you. And compare the differences between when the right knee goes out to the right, rolling to the outside of your right foot, and then it goes inward towards the left, and inward and maybe down a little bit. Just feel how that movement is traveling through you. The difference in your hip joints, in your pelvis, in the contact you make with the floor, your ribs, shoulder blades. Does the movement trail up your spine to your head and do something with your head? Where does your chin go? Does it move closer towards your chest or further away? And if so, when? Where do your eyes go? You might want to explore sometimes with your eyes open, soft, or closed. When eyes are opened, are we fixating on a spot which constrains the head? Or is it just a soft focus, wondering what's around, viewing the panorama? And then bring that to a close, lengthen your legs, and rest. Notice if your contact with the floor is changing. If one leg, one side feels longer than the other. And these are just questions to help enable us to ask, what am I noticing? Sometimes we don't pay attention to this subtle stuff. So in an awareness through movement lesson, we help guide you to different places or areas where we might begin to turn our attention. And what's most important is what you notice. Slowly return your feet to stand, keeping now your right foot, your right knee quiet, meaning it's going to stand more in the vertical, the knee towards the ceiling. Doesn't mean that it doesn't participate. And now slowly, just beginning the first exploration, it's the left knee. You're going to tilt out to the left and bring back to stand. And you're making a comparison. Is your left hip as available to do this? Easier? Not as simple? Is the movement you're making now tilting your left knee out to the left, maybe rolling to the outside edge of your left foot, and then coming back to stand? Does it feel symmetrical with what you did when you were exploring the right side? It's different. Where do you notice the differences? And continue to play with this variation. Just the tilting of the left knee out, how that transitions through you. Does the right foot start to do something? that enables the left knee with ease to go further to the left before it comes back to stand. And if it does, what is it doing? Listen to the contact of the right foot. The further away the left knee goes out to the left, does the right foot begin to sense something, activate, do something? In such a way that, does the right knee just stay where it is, or does it move a little further away from you? What does it do to the right hip? What's happening in the left hip? And continue to play with that, keeping your limbs long, meaning the arms long beside you, palms face down. How far up your spine do you feel this movement traveling? How come the reason the arms are asked to be long with the palms face down? Does the movement travel into your shoulders? And also your head? And then let that go. Lengthen your legs and rest a moment. Bring the feet back to stand, comfortably wide. And now with the left foot, the left knee, begin to tilt that leg inward towards the center, and then does it want to go a little bit downward towards the right? Where is it that the left knee has more play? It can go further, as you're also noticing possibly you're tilting more towards the inside edge of your left foot. And listen to the return of the left foot knee into its vertical. We'll call that the neutral ground, the starting place. Continue to play with that. Where is it different? Can you let your belly be soft? Feel where there's a shift of weight. And is it exactly like when you were exploring with the right? So we're really wanting to notice the differences because one side compared to our other side is different. So we're just sussing out, well, where does it feel different? And of course, keep it within the realm of comfort. I've often noticed that the minute I go beyond what's really comfortable and easy, where I'm striving to do more, I'll hold my breath a little bit. So pay attention to the breathing too. Where is that just easy? Does there have to be a specific timing of how you breathe? Or can your breath just be natural, flowing? It doesn't interfere. It just facilitates, allows. And then bring the left foot back to its neutral standing. Both feet are standing comfortably wide. And begin to alternate now with your left knee. It goes out to the left, returns to its neutral standing, and then tilts inward and maybe a little down to the right. For me, I like to think of this as a little swinging door. You know, I grew up and we had a swinging door between our kitchen and our dining room. And so it was an image that spoke to me. You find the image that speaks for you. Continue to explore the alternating of your left knee out to the left, coming back to stand, and inward towards the right. Listen to the differences in the contact of you, how the movement travels up through you. And when is it that you sense something happens in your right foot, your right hip, that facilitates something? Is it in both directions or more in one direction? And then pause from that, both feet standing for a moment. And now, just to make a comparison, to refresh do I really remember what it was like? Begin to alternate. Once the right knee tilts out, comes to stand, tilts in, back to stand, And then you do it with the left. Goes out to the left, comes back to stand, inward towards the right. And you're doing this really to begin to compare, are they similar? Or where they're different? And then leave that alone, lengthen your legs, and rest. Notice your contact. And discern for yourself what's different. What's changing? Is something changing? And if the question is, well, I think so, yeah, where? Where do you feel that? What is the sensation you're feeling that's indicating something is changing? Return your feet to stand again. This time, and still have your arms long beside you, palms face down, tilt both of your knees to the right. So as your right knee tilts out to the right, your left knee is tilting inward and down towards the right. And then you bring them back to stand. Just do that one direction to the right with both knees and bringing them back to stand. And listen to what's happening in your pelvis, in the contact of your lower back, comparing one side to the other. Can you get an image of what your spine is doing? Ribs, shoulder blades. Because your arms are long beside you, palms face down, feel what's happening there. How that sensation of your arms is possibly being affected by the tilting of your knees to the right. And then you restore to stand. Now, as you continue to do this, allow your head to begin to roll to the right. Maybe it was already doing that. And listen to the trajectory of your rolling head. Where is your chin going? And when you bring the knees back to stand, what happens with your head? Continue this movement, but now take your left hand and place your left hand flat, the pads of the fingers, but some portion of the fingers, so that you want to accompany rolling your head towards the right as you tilt your knees to the right. And then you roll your head back to the neutral. But you're rolling your head with your left hand. So it's really a rolling versus you're pushing your head. And you're letting your head be passive. Can your neck be soft? Your mouth, your jaw, your eyes, even if the eyes are open, can you look at what you're following to look at to the right and back? Think about as you're rolling your head, the fingers actually transition on the skin of your forehead versus they're being pushed. You could get an image of a little tennis ball or yoga ball that you place your hand on to roll it. The contact of your hand changes subtly on the ball, as will the contact of your left hand subtly change a little bit with the rolling of your head to the right and then back to the neutral. Pause for a moment, place your left hand back on the floor beside you, palm face down, and now put your right hand on your forehead. And continue to tilt your knees to the right, but roll your head to the left using your right hand. And you bring your head back to the neutral as you restore your knees to the neutral. Where is it different? Listen to what's happening in shoulder blades, contact with the floor, or your breathing, or any and every place else that is making contact with the floor or leaving contact from the floor. Can you get the sense of the shape of you? And then place your right hand back onto the floor, palm face down. Tilt the knees to the right and allow your head to roll of its own accord, once to the right, once to the left, and play with the rolling of your head. Maybe you start to reverse the rolling of your head so that as you're tilting the knees to the right, your head is rolling to the left. And when you're tilting or bringing your knees back to standing, you're rolling your head to the right. And for any of you that feel, well, I do a lot more advanced work, then what would you do to take this to another level? Maybe move your eyes in the opposite direction your head is rolling. And for sure, go slow so you can really pay attention not only to what you're doing, but how you're doing it. That gets confusing. We sometimes hold our breath or tense someplace. Can the rolling of the head be simple and easy? And then leave that all alone. Lengthen yourself and rest. And then return your feet to stand. Now we're still going to keep tilting our knees, both of them, to the right for a moment. But we're going to change the variation a little bit. This time, as you tilt your knees to the right, place your left hand behind the fullest portion of your skull. So the back of your skull, closer to the bulbous area, higher up, not towards your neck. And then you'll direct your left elbow towards the ceiling. And then listen to how you breathe so that as you're tilting your knees to the right, you use your left hand to lift your head and look down. And then you put the head back, you bring your knees back to the standing. Do this several times. Notice, number one, how you initiate the movement in how you breathe. And how you breathe when you return your head and your knees to the standing and the head to the floor. Every time you bring your head to the floor, you can open up your left elbow to rest versus keeping it towards the ceiling as if you're already set and ready to go again. Just go to a neutral and begin it again. And notice where you look when you lift your head using the left hand. You might want to look to the left knee or the left hip, or do you look to the right knee or the right hip in that direction? Just feel where it's different and the contact you make with the floor or where you're changing the contact. And then you come back, change over your hands. Your feet are still standing wide, comfortably wide. Place your left hand back on the floor, palm face down, long beside you. Place your right hand behind that same area of the back of your head. When you're ready to explore this, go ahead and draw your right elbow towards the ceiling. Continue to tilt your knees to the right and use your right hand to lift your head and look down. Where is it different? Where did that change something? And where do you look? And how do you breathe? And do that a few times. And then leave that alone. Lengthen your limbs and rest. Notice contact, breathing. You're in control of how many explorations you do, the pacing, the timing, and how far you go. All of these are under your control. Now for the next exploration, you're still going to tilt your knees to the right. Lengthen your right arm overhead. Elongate it as a long arm. And for those that have difficulty here, for whatever reason is going on in your shoulder girdle, think about how you would adapt, modify. There are supports you can place underneath the arm, between the arm and the floor, so it's a little bit more elevated. It doesn't have to be directly straight up overhead. Find where it's available for you. And your left hand is going to be on the floor, palm face down. And begin to tilt the knees, both of them, to the right, and then come back. As you continue the tilting of your knees to the right, and then you come back, begin to have a sensation that could your right arm, as a byproduct of this, begin to get longer in the direction it's going. And then could you begin to allow your head to roll, and maybe it has to do something else, as if you wanted to look in the direction of your right hand as you're tilting the knees to the right. And then you come back. When you come back, the knees go to the vertical. Whatever happened you sensed in your right arm or your head, they too come back to their neutral, the starting place. And continue that movement. And add in that as you're tilting the knees to the right and the sense that the right arm is getting longer, can you also start to feel that the left arm wants to get longer, sliding downward in the direction of your left heel? And you come back. And continue to play that both arms in the respective directions are moving further away from each other. The right arm is sliding further up, reaching for something, as the left arm is sliding down, reaching. And feel the shape of you. And then continue to play with the idea of where your head goes. One time, have your head look. It has to roll and it does something else so that you could begin to direct your face, your nose, towards the right hand. And then you come back. The knees are still going to continue to tilt to the right each time. But then the next time, roll your head to look downward in the direction of the left hand. It's not about lifting the head to get down there to look. Just roll it as if there was an arcing that you could see in that direction towards the lower left area. And continue to play with that. And then leave that all alone. Lengthen your limbs and lie down long, noticing the difference. Where is it different? At any time through any lesson, you can put it on pause and continue to play with something that got your attention, or you need more time. Or you could pause and rest and come back to the lesson. Return your feet to stand. This time, tilt both knees to the left and back. At this point, both arms are resting long beside you, palm face down. And as you tilt the knees to the left, listen to the different trajectories of each knee. Listen to the rolling through your pelvis, the contact you make, and how that movement, is it traveling through you and up you? What's the sense of it? Is it a straight movement? Is it a spiraling movement? Does something happen in your arms just passively by tilting the knees to the left and then restoring them to stand? And then begin to add in the rolling of your head. This time start with the right hand resting the pads of the fingers or along the hand on your forehead. And you're going to roll the head towards the left as you tilt the knees to the left. And then you bring the head back as you bring the knees back. Make sure you're rolling the head. You're not pushing it. It's not sliding on the floor. It's a rolling. Just see if it's available. Don't force anything. If it doesn't go as far to the left as your knees do, you can imagine. But also notice where your eyes are going. Could your eyes also be looking in the direction you want to roll your head? And never go beyond where it feels comfortable, safe, that you could do a lot of it without feeling any after effects that would not be pleasant. And then rest your right hand on the floor again, palm face down, long beside you, and place your left hand on your forehead. And as you tilt the knees to the left, use your left hand to roll your head to the right. And back to the neutral as the knees come back. And continue to play this one. Listen to what's different as you roll your head to the right as the knees are going to the left. It's a differentiation. It creates a little bit more of a twist through your spine. And feel what that does regarding the contact through your shoulder blades, through your ribs. Is there a difference in the shape or the space between your ribs from the left side to the right? Notice how you breathe. And then put the hands, again, both of them long, arms, hands, palm face down beside you. Continue with the movement of tilting your knees to the left and freely roll your head of its own accord as a result of the tilting of the knees to the right, to the left, all the while the knees are going to the left, to feel the difference of the shape of you, that simply the rolling of your head, whether in the same direction of the knees or in the opposite direction of the knees, affords. And then rest from that a moment. Return your feet to stand, comfortably wide. This time, you're going to tilt the knees to the left. As you do that, place your right hand behind the fullest portion of your skull. When you're ready, as you've tilted the knees to the left and you're going to lift your head, make sure that your right elbow is organized towards the ceiling. And listen to how you breathe. Do you inhale when you go to lift the head? Do you exhale? That's another thing you can play with. What's different? And where do you feel something in your chest feels softer, easier to lift the head as the knees tilted to the left? And then everything restores. Knees back to the ceiling in the vertical. Lay the head down. Right elbow can go back out towards the floor to pause for a moment and begin it again. Feel what happens in your shoulder blades. And where does your head, your eyes orient when you lift the head? To what direction are you looking? First, you notice where your head wants to look, your eyes want to look. And then set another intention. If you notice that your head was lifting and looking to the left, great. Feel what that did, where you lean on the floor and which portions of you lean or depress into the floor. And then when you go to lift your head the next time, shift your gaze of where you look. Could you look to the right knee or the right hip? And what does that do? And then you come back, you can keep your knees standing, change over your hands. So the right arm goes long, palm face down. The left hand now rests behind the fullest portion of your skull. And when you're ready, upon tilting your knees to the left to lift your head, please, it'll be easier if you direct your left elbow towards the ceiling. Sometimes this isn't as available for somebody, they don't realize. So that's another thing you could compare. Keep the left elbow out to the left. Don't direct it towards the ceiling and go to lift your head. Where does it feel? Does it feel harder someplace? In your chest? In your sternum? And then compare it with directing the elbow towards the ceiling. So feel what has to happen when you do that in your shoulder joint. And where do you look? When now it's the left hand, as you tilt the knees to the left, it's the left hand that's lifting your head. Where do you want to look? And the minute you notice, as you go to do it, you're efforting and you hold your breath, can you notice that? And come back to rest. And maybe before you do it again, you imagine doing it so that you can catch where is the moment you went to effort and you gripped, you held, you contracted. You held your breath. You don't need to do that. Maybe you can pay attention to when you inhale and when you exhale. And maybe you'll find a path of ease that way. And then rest from that. Let everything go long. Notice your contact. Settle in. And then bring your feet back to stand. Elongate the left arm somewhere on the floor overhead. Find for you where that's available. Your right arm is long beside you, palm face down. As you go to tilt the knees now to the left, have that sense that every time you're tilting the knees to the left arm wants to get longer, as if it's reaching for something. And then you come back. Listen to the response in the limbs when everything returns to the neutral. How does that travel inward through your center? And then begin to play with where your head goes. If your intention was you were reaching for something, your left hand is reaching up there to get something, where would you turn your head? And it's not just rolling the head. You would have to do something else. Listen to the contours of your neck, the back of your neck and the front of your throat. What happens to the shape of your spine there and throughout you? When you're tilting the knees to the left arm is reaching up and you bring your eyes towards the left hand. Maybe there's a little bit of a sliding of the head as well as rolling so that your head could look up. Maybe you also open your mouth. Are you breathing when you do this? The shape of your chest, your sternum, compared to the back of you. Your pelvis. Do the knees go further to the floor at any point that you become aware of? What affords that? What allows that? And then you come back. And then add in, as you are tilting the knees to the left, and the left arm is lengthening, reaching up, and you're taking your head, your eyes towards the left hand, begin to slide your right hand downward, lengthening both of the hands in the opposite direction. They're moving further away from each other. Maybe the idea is the right hand is now reaching in the direction of your right heel. Listen to how you breathe. When is it that you're inhaling? When is it you're exhaling? First, you notice what you're doing, and then you can reverse it to compare one to the other. When is it that you feel, oh, it's easier? Something feels easier. I don't feel like I'm stretching or striving so much. And then begin to play with where your head rolls. In one direction, it can roll towards the left hand, reaching up. What if it was a fruit it's picking off of the vine or the tree? And then another time, you're looking to your right hand. Can you feel the shape of you, the ribs? There is something going on there that maybe on some of the ribs, there's a sense that there's a widening between each of the ribs. There's an expansion. And the other side feels like it's accordioning together. It's a little bit of a side bending. And listen to the contact you're making with the floor. What's meeting the floor, leaning into the floor to support you, and where is something lifting? And then leave that all alone. Let everything lengthen and rest. And notice your contact with the floor. Come back to the sense of length. Was there one leg or arm or side of you that felt longer than the other one before? Or remember when we trailed the spine from the tailbone, the sacral bone, the lower back, the thoracic rib spine, your cervical neck spine, to where your head sits on top? Were there areas that were, well, they felt longer or shorter before? Listen to the contact you make now. Do portions that maybe felt shorter before feel longer? You don't have to have any answers right now. They're questions to ruminate on. And if you do feel a difference, notice, where is the difference that you feel? And then bring your feet to stand and just tilt your knees from one side back to the neutral to the other side. And feel for yourself, in which direction would you want to tilt your knees to allow the rest of you to follow? Roll by way of one side, transition yourself from the side to sitting and come to stand. And as you come to stand in your own time, feel how you erect yourself over your feet. In standing, can you create a similar scan? Can you imagine the front of you compared to the back, and the sides of you, the length of you? And turn your head to look from one side to the other. Feel how the turning of your head does the rest of you come along. Could you allow that? In such a way that if someone were behind you from a distance calling you, would you go look? Which side did you look to first? Over your right? Over your left? Did the pelvis shift? Your spine, your pelvis, even a shift in your legs? And from that place, have a walk around and enjoy your day.